Hello, everyone. Happy Monday and welcome to Adobe Live. My name is James Bonanno. Happy Valentine's Day, everyone, and happy post-Super Bowl Sunday. I am joined today by Chris Blackstock. Chris, welcome to the show, man.
Thank you. Nice meeting you, and happy Valentine's Day, everybody. I'm excited.
Yes, very, very excited. For those tuning in, today we will be going over creating anthropomorphic, that's a mouthful, characters for animation with Chris, who's a professional illustrator, designer, jack of all trades in Photoshop and character design. So it is not really my forte, so I'm very excited to be here today with you, Chris, to have you show us the ropes and really get into some character design.
Definitely.
Before we hop into some things, let's just do a little housekeeping here. Welcome everybody. Monday morning or Monday afternoon, depending on where you are. Sam, Frank, Wade. Hello, everyone. Hello. And yes, what's up, Wade? So before we get started, just a couple housekeeping things here, Chris. To those that are new to this format, please head on over to behance.net/Adobe Live, where you can tune in and send us your questions. So let's engage in the chat. Ask Chris anything you have question-wise, and join our newest addition to the Adobe Live lineup, our Creative Cloud Express streams, where you can check out how to navigate the easy-to-use app. So this week, it's all about creating infographics, lots of interesting stuff there. And be sure to check out the creative encores of the Photoshop Daily Creative Challenge with Sam Peterson every weekday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. I believe that is it. Chris, why don't you give us a little intro as to who you are, what you do professionally, and maybe show us some of your work before we get into some things today.
Yeah, definitely. Let me see. Let me pull this on. So let's pull up my Instagram. My name is Chris Blackstock, as James told you. I am an illustrator, character designer, concept artist. Grew up in Los Angeles, still live here, lived in the Bay for a long time, but back in Los Angeles.
Sweet.
I went to the Academy of Art in San Francisco, which was a really awesome experience. Great, a lot of great illustrators there, especially a lot of that moved on into the entertainment industry. I've done stuff for, I worked in the music industry for a long time and did stuff for Skrillex, Ausla, and the M Machine. This is a while ago. There was a poster I did for the Full Flex Express tour where they took a train across Canada. It was with Tycho and Kisa and ASAP Ferg, 100 Waters, Jackie, which was Skrillex and Diplo were playing together. So that was really fun. I had done a few of the previous years well. So yeah, poster art. Also been working on a graphic novel with a writer, friend of mine, and so that's been like a much longer project than expected. It's been about almost 3 years now, maybe longer. Wow. But it's it's going to be a 200+ page full graphic novel, so that's been a really cool experience. Holy cow, comic book artists are just man it's beasts amongst men.
So cool. When are you so much work. When are you planning on potentially having that book finished?
I hope by summertime. We would like to be at Comic-Con, but it's getting the book finished. Also, shopping it around to major studios and publishers. So it's a book, but it's also a pitch for something bigger as well. Done stuff. Let's see what's some other fun stuff. Also, murals at cafes. So it's fun doing. It's a local coffee shop. But so I do graphic design and logo work too. So I always end up in a lot of different places. Sculpture work I did a long time ago, found objects. So I'm a bit of a renaissance man when it comes to that stuff. This is more recent stuff that I've done, which is fun. This was actually a part of the last stream where I was working on monster portraits. Wow. And so this was one that I didn't do it on the stream, but we had talked about it and wanted to finish that one up. I think this is the one that I did on the stream, which was really fun.
Oh my God, so cool.
So yeah, that's what I do. It's mostly fantasy based, sci-fi, definitely leaning towards like a mixed realism style. Yeah.
And so much life to everything though too. And it's so interesting. I feel like it's not a world that I necessarily play or live in, but I'm always fascinated by people like you that can create, things that are in your imagination or, inspired by some other fantasy world. So I'm super excited to see what you get into today. And, and other than your Instagram, I think your Behance page, for those that, want to check out some more of Chris's work. That's what I was scoping before. And
let me see if I can pull that up real quick too.
And a lot of great portfolio work on there as well.
Yeah. And then that also has, one of the live streams as well, I think from the Lightbox Expo, which was super fun, which was this guy. I was working on a sci-fi farmer. Kind of a fun.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was a fun one.
Are you inspired? Are you inspired by anyone in particular? Any other artists or designers?
I think a guy that I've really been looking at a lot lately, Corey Loftus. He's a pretty well-known character designer, concept artist. He did a lot in games for a while and then switched over. I mean, now people know him. He designed the characters for Zootopia. He's worked on Zendaya, a lot of other Disney animated films, but he's just lately, that's kind of just him, the way he pushes shapes and how much character he has. It's something that I've kind of just been aspiring to get to that level. Yeah. I'm like, God, it's like, it's like you do your art and then by the time it's finished, you're like, I hate it.
Yeah.
It's horrible. It's like you're so excited and then you get to the finish, you're like, next, I can't.
Yeah.
So I'm somebody that's I've been referencing a lot, Corey Loftus. Cool. I mean, a big Don Bluth fan. And obviously since we're doing anthropomorphism today and anthropomorphic characters, I can go ahead and show you guys. So anthropomorphism itself is the attribution of human traits, emotions, or intentions to non-human entities. It's also something that we just tend to do as humans. I think everybody has their pet that is their child or baby. And it's you get it because that's how we connect to things. Right. We tend to project a lot of our emotions and feelings onto other beings. And so with animation, it's really important, especially, I think it started with, a lot of children's animation, but we've all grown up with it now. So it's obviously moved into adult animation and, other cultural references, but we're able to attribute our emotions and feelings onto animals and connect with them in a different way than we would if it was a human. Sometimes we can kind of stretch things and go places maybe that would be uncomfortable to do if it was a human character, but putting it onto an animal, we connect to it. It's like we still understand those feelings and emotions, but we're able to process it a little bit differently, and it's not as uncomfortable. We're like, oh, he's a tiger, so he's of course he's going to try to eat that guy, or there's attributes that you can give it that make it a little bit easier to process those things. And I think especially for kids, exploring a lot of those emotions and stuff through animal characters, I think it's a much easier process for them as well. I've just got a few examples here. One of my favorite shows growing up was Dinosaurs.
Oh my God, I haven't seen that in so long.
Oh, talk about a weird, uncomfortable show. That was just so good. Created by the Jim Henson Company. They can't make that show anymore, but that was the Simpsons, the kind of like the dad that just goes to work and is miserable, and you know, the family, and he's got the kids in high school. But a great example of putting, you know, this American family, kind of common American family, on a bunch of dinosaurs, which is a pretty strange thing, but you give them human characteristics, you change their bodies to represent us, and then you don't really see them as dinosaurs anymore. I mean,
right.
You get the good comedy of like, oh, you know, it's like, yeah, he's eating his refrigerator is full of like live furry little mammals, like, you know, like he's just munching on. But again, you're kind of able to like approach a bunch of hard subjects without it feeling too intense.
Yeah, it's interesting because it's like you almost get like a hall pass in a way of being able to then create the story you want to create, and maybe especially like in today's world, being a little bit on the edge, and attributing that to, you know, animals and anthropomorphism, so you can tell a story a little bit edgier than you might if you use just, you know, regular humans.
Yeah, completely. I mean, I think that's the beauty of animation and cartoons in general. I mean, you look at something like South Park, that's,
oh my God,
pushed every envelope open, because you just, how can you get mad at these little like cutout animated characters?
Right.
It's like, it's tough, you know? So yeah, usually with the, you know, anthropomorphic characters, you kind of have some different levels of it. You know, you can get it where it's like Lion King, where they still are all their mostly natural animal bodies, the movements, kind of how they act, but you know, they can talk. A lot of their dynamics and, you know, emotional intelligence is all attributed to humans. And then you can kind of go all the way to the dinosaurs, or Robin Hood, a great Disney animated film, where they're walking, they wear shoes, they have clothes, they don't need pants necessarily.
Right. No one questions that part of it.
Yeah, but you know, another great way of like telling this old story, you know, but with animals. You know, and then with the video games, the Crash Bandicoot, there's Nicholas Cole. He's a really incredible artist as well. And so you can kind of get these different levels all the way to something like Black Sad, which is hands down one of the most beautifully illustrated graphic novels of all time. So if you guys get a chance, check it out. But you know, it's about this panther. It's like a whole, you know, noir style, kind of like detective mystery. It's got politics, murder, you know,
sweet
love, like it's got all these things, and these you know, it's like the full animal world, you know. It's like take Zootopia, but you know, make it 10 times darker. So yeah, like the range is huge, you know, all that. Even, and then Madagascar is even like a slightly different version from, you know, it's kind of going away from Lion King, but they're still animals, they don't wear clothes. You know, the zebra character doesn't have hands, like they're still hooves.
Yeah.
But you know, the way that they act and talk, and their worries and relationships are, you know, still very human. So it's a really cool thing. You really only find it in animation. I'm trying to like, I mean, you find it in other things, but as far as being really fleshed out, it's really just comics animation, you know, within the storytelling realm.
It's really interesting because this is not something that I've delved into thinking about. You know, we as the viewer and just being entertained want to see animation and look at this illustration and feel some type of way, but I've never really had an opportunity to dive into sort of the human psychology the way that you've laid it out. And it's a really interesting way of looking at the beauty of animation, the beauty of illustration, and why it can tell such a long, like a broader story and reach, you know, children while also reaching adults and having, you know, different themes in each.
Yeah. And it's, you know, for the most part, it pushes beyond like it still represents class, race, gender, all those things. But at the same time, it can go beyond that. And it's not necessarily that, like, especially as a child, you're not going to see a lot of those things, which is great because you don't have to think about that at that, you know, like you can really just get to the core principles of like what the story's about and like what you enjoy about it. So yeah, it kind of offers just a lot of room to tell a story and to make great jokes. So
yeah.
So yeah, so this is what we're talking about today, what we're gonna kind of look at. I had done, actually, I'll show you one more thing. I'll shoot to close it out. I am working with a nonprofit that my friend had started called Coloring in Place or Color in Place. Let me see if I can find it. And it was started, it was started to make coloring books for kids, like pages to download during the pandemic when it started. And for each, there's like every few months we have a different charity or program that we donate the profits to. And so this is really, and the reason why I'm talking about this is you got some really cool illustrators involved. And let's see if we got, trying to see, I've got some drawings on here that I was seeing if I could find, but I had basically done some Scooter Gang characters. Oh, here's one of them. And so, but obviously,
oh, that's cool.
Anthropomorphic, I got a fox, I did a crocodile,
yeah,
a chimpanzee. Oh, here we go. Here are these guys. And a bear. Oh my, so this is going to be along the lines of what we're going to work on today. Slightly different. I'm not going to be so line heavy. It's probably going to be much more rendered, and something this is much more graphic, meant for a coloring book. Heavy line. And we're going to want to do the design today is going to be something that you could apply to 2D animation, but mostly probably this is a character for 3D animation.
Gotcha. And we talked about it a little before we got on the stream, but your plan is to do basically the next 2 days, so today and tomorrow, and ideally try to finish one of these, right? So tomorrow will be a continuation of today. Yeah,
exactly. Gotcha. I'm gonna let's see if we can pull up some of these sketches that I did. So I decided to do a chameleon.
Love that.
I was like, I just need to pick an animal. It's like there's a million things you could do, but I was like, I'll just make a little chameleon.
Very
and so
Ringo.
Yes. Oh my God, I love that. That
Such
movie.
a great movie.
And completely underrated. That was just like
very, very much
one of the best animated films ever made.
Yeah.
So I'd kind of done some exploration here ahead of time, and I had decided, let me see. I decided on this guy. Can make him a little wily, a little crazy. I might do this guy later on because I really like him. He's pretty funny.
Is he drinking like a juice box or a milk carton or something?
Yeah, he's diabetic. He's got his little diabetes thing there in his little juice box. Now, what we could do, and I know Wade is excited about this because I do this every time that he's moderating. We could do a strap hole. Wade, okay. We could do a strap hole. And we could see if people want me to do number one or number two. Now I decided on number two, but I would be willing to switch over if there's a strong need or want for
let's
one design.
Let's poll the audience here. One or two. I think either one would be really cool. They're both so different, but yeah, I think a poll is a solid way to do that. So
yeah,
what are we thinking in the chat? One or two?
Let's see
which we got. This is how you can tell if people are awake or not. I'm like, oh
yeah, exactly. Yeah, we got the let's see.
Okay, so Sean thinks two.
Okay.
All right, so we got 1 for 2, or now we got 2 for 2. All right, let's get a couple more in there. Let's see, what are we thinking? 1 or 2? Yep, it looks like 2. It looks like 2 is going to be the winner.
All right, 2's looking good.
Yeah, 2's looking solid.
Let's see. All right, let's just do it. 2, but also like the bulky one. Well, I'm going to come back to the 1. I have a feeling I'll probably end up doing that anyways. So, all right. So I've got my guys here. Definitely like this guy. And so I know I've kind of got my main sketches here.
So this is just more for my own knowledge, again, because this is a little newer to me, but your process when you are starting from the very beginning sketching, are you sketching on some sort of light box? Are you sketching,
Yeah,
like
completely. Yeah. So I'm on a Wacom 24-inch Cintiq Pro. I got it this past year. I was on a 13-inch HD for like 7 years.
Wow.
It's getting carpal tunnel. Like I couldn't, it's like, so this has been a great upgrade. Just how well you can kind of see all of your art at once without having to zoom in really close has been great. So yeah, that's what I'm working with now. And then obviously everything's going to be in Photoshop today. And as far as what I'm sketching with, it depends. I switched from, honestly, I used the hard round. I've used that for so long, but I've kind of switched over into the Kyle drawing, one of those, the Webster pencils.
Gotcha.
And then also there's this great Jens Claessens, I think is how you say his name. Really incredible character designer, concept artist. He makes brushes as well. So I've got a pencil brush that I like of his, but I think today I'm going to use the Kyle drawing. I think it's Kyle drawing 80 flow. I don't know. It's fun. It's got like a nice, I don't know if you see me blow it up, but it's got angles,
Sweet.
kind of get all these really nice, fine, fat, that's good. So yeah, so I've got 3 laid out here because my original idea was to kind of have each one and then do variations on each design. But I think what I'll do is just start. I think I'm just going to start with this guy. And what I was also going to do is I have him like this, but I think I'm going to kind of lay out his body underneath so you guys can kind of see. It's a good practice when doing animation, because in production you might send in your designs and be like, yeah, it's great, but those clothes are terrible. I don't like the hairstyle. It's like, I love it, change everything. So if you don't, which happens a lot. So if you don't have like a good skeleton to work off of, it could be really hard to change those things because you might be missing some of the pieces. So that head's pretty good. I don't think I really need to mess with that much. But we're just gonna like clean up some of this. Let me see, get darker.
So you're adding a little more to that sketch before you actually go in.
Yeah, right now I'm just basically, I'm gonna clean it up a little bit with just just kind of see what underneath this all looks like. Cause I had it and I was like, it'd be good to show that, you've got a character underneath here that, when you go to reference that, it's really important that, because especially when you draw, it's called like a through line or, a line of action or something. I don't want to just every line like, okay, I go there and then I go there and then I go there. And what's going to happen is instead of having these nice continuous lines, things might not match up. The rhythm might get broken. And so you try to kind of draw through it. It's like, okay, I've got this. His shoulders are probably dropped here. And so you get the neck coming here.
So yeah, you're like that constant flow and movement as you're sketching the way you normally would,
Yeah. And you're going to find things easier in your design. It's just going to feel better because you can always go back and erase. I mean, the beauty of digital is that the Control Z or Command Z or whatever, whatever you guys, got. And so it makes it easy if you make a mistake, but this way we've got a body, we've got a skeleton that we can work off of. So if I want to change something, I can. and I don't feel like I have to redraw it. I basically just have to redraw the item of clothing or accessory, because I can see everything there.
Yeah, that's a big point. I mean, like you mentioned, especially in client work, you want to be able to hand something over and not have to start from scratch. I mean, we've all been there before where the client wants to blow it all up, and the last thing you want to do is go start from the very beginning. And here you're giving yourself the freedom to, draw the skeleton and then add all those parts on top of it, depending on what you decide or what the client decides, right?
Right, exactly. It's just going to make it easier for me in the end, and just make sure that the flow is there. Make sure all the pieces are there, and sometimes it's easy if you're just drawing with clothes, either to cheat or you can get lost in the details or certain items or accessories, and it's a disservice to you in the end. And also with your modelers or whoever's going to be working on this later, they might have to design it full, with just the skeleton first, because that's probably what they're going to rig. And then with the clothing and some of the other things, those might be completely separate entities that they attach with their own physics. And so it's this way, it's easier for production to see what's going on. It's like maybe there's a scene where like he's not wearing those clothes, like he's wearing completely other clothes, and so this just kind of gives you a better idea of what your character looks like.
Now, your typical workflow, would you say when you're creating your illustrations, are you sending it over mostly for animation? Or are you like half and half, just creating just for static design, or what's that workflow like for you?
Yeah, I mean, something like this, it could be even it could be pre-production. Like, a lot of the times I would get work just helping generate new ideas, or coming in to a team and being like, just do you, because we just want some fresh ideas. We want something new. We want you to like, just shake it up, because we've been doing this and maybe they're stuck, or I did work on the Iron Man ride for Hong Kong Disney years back. And so, it's like I flew down to LA. This is when I was in the Bay Area still. They flew me down, and I just, came in. They showed me the brief, kind of showed me a lot of the concept work they had. And basically my job was to just help redesign the robot Hydra army that they had, But it was a lot of it was just kind of like, just see what you come up with. Like, this is what we have. This is what we, these are benchmarks. But at the same time, this is what we've been doing. We kind of just want you to do something weird, and then we can,
Gotcha.
So a lot of the times that'll happen. I did work on an independent project where I was the character designer, environment designer, props, a lot of that stuff. And so that was a great experience, because I kind of went through the whole process of building all the assets for the animation team. Excuse me.
Gotcha.
Because that was all sent out to China for animation for the pilot. And so, yeah, this is definitely the concept step, this is
right.
It's like you could maybe use this, right now, this is like what you'd call like a hero pose.
Got it. So
this is a pose that is kind of tells you who this character is. Kind of like, you can look at this character and right, you're like, okay, I can see maybe its personality.
Yeah.
Its main clothes, like what, like its stance, and kind of like, yeah, like who's this character? Hopefully I can get it all from this one pose. Because then after this, you're going to break them down, do a turnaround, facial expression sheet. You're going to be doing him in action, interacting with other characters. But this is kind of, you could throw this at somebody and be like, okay, I got it. Like, it's not going to take very long to figure out like who or what this character is.
Isn't that incredible? So, like, just to be able to pull out those emotions with just one hero pose like that. And I mean, yeah, in reading into looking at him, like you can start to really develop the story behind just this one character. And it's just one of the many incredible things about illustration and character design like this.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a cool, it's something that I've always loved too. I mean, like just watching people do this, experiencing it obviously through animation, different stories, children's books, whatever. But like as I got older and started to figure like, oh, this is a job, and like this is what people do all day, and like this is incredible.
Yeah.
It's kind of it's unbelievable. It's like this is something that you study, and again, the cool thing with the anthropomorphism is like you're taking all this stuff from real world experiences or studying, and like you're just applying it to this animal that probably has no business being any of these things, and you're just kind of like, he's part of a biker gang, and this is what
he's a chameleon, he's a gecko. It's fine.
That's what this guy does.
That's what he does all day.
Yeah, he just rides around on a scooter and threatens businesses and
drinks Bud Heavies all day and holds a bat with nails coming out of it.
Yeah, he might be a Mickey's guy. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, right. He's definitely a Mickey's guy. He's a 40 guy.
Yeah. Okay. So, if let's say we, where's my? Should probably be labeling these things, but I'm not.
So, a question as you're continuing to work here, and when you're creating the story or just the idea, behind a character like this, do you often lead with the story of who this character is, or do you start to sketch something that you have either inspired from somewhere else or in your head, and then build the story based on that? Like, what's that process like for you?
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say a lot of the time it's definitely like you're like, I'm just going to start drawing, or, I have a base idea of, okay, this is what I'm trying to create. Let's start figuring it out, and then a lot of the times by the end I was like, oh yeah, okay, this is who this guy is, and like maybe I can add this, or I can do that, or you kind of start to figure out the story as you draw the character. They kind of reveal themselves to you, or at least that's how it feels to me. I mean, there's a lot of people that are just, they have it here and then it appears on the page. But for me, it's like I really have to start drawing to kind of see what the character is or who the character is. That's
cool. Yeah, just get started, and really, like, I mean, I think that applies to a lot of art too, not just character design. It's like, just get started, and a lot of those ideas, and just by being productive and creating something, they sort of come to you.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like you just kind of have to do it.
Yep.
Like, it's be willing to fail. It's like, it's totally normal and totally fine. And
yeah.
Any successful person in this world has failed many, 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 many times. So, so there's kind of our guy in his little undies. So now if we need that for anything beyond this, we've got it. So gotcha. I'll just label that undies.
Wade had a great question. He wants to know, what's the scale of this character? Is it human or standard chameleon size with miniature clothes or weapons?
I have not thought about that yet, but like now I'm imagining him chameleon
being super
size.
Tiny chameleon size.
Yeah, gosh. Well, is this like a toothpick in his hand now? Is this not really a bat? Did he raid the local like doll store?
Yeah.
It's a great question.
He's like just made of Legos.
Yeah. We'll have to think about that one. Maybe that's cool. Maybe it'll reveal itself as we go here. All right, cool. So I'm going to use this as my, let's see if I got, okay, cool. I'm going to use this as my main, I might actually change this to a cooler color so that I can see it underneath if I need it. And I'm just locking the layer and just going over it. super quick way to just kind of color a layer. Just this little checkerboard.
Oh, cool.
Okay. Yeah, that way you can see it if you need it, you can see it. Okay, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to flesh this drawing out just slightly more, and then probably what I'm going to do is do a few different versions of it. So maybe he doesn't have a bandana, or maybe he's got a different jacket on, or he's wearing small tight shorts. I don't know, like anything, piercings. We're kind of we're going to flesh this out a bit, and then when we have that, we will go ahead and
are those tattoos on his arm, or are those just like on his right forearm?
They were I think they were bandages of some sort.
Oh yeah, he's hard. He just gets scratched up in the desert.
Yeah, he probably ate it on his bike, which is now probably Hot Wheels or something. It's a pullback. It's a pullback. So yeah, let's get in here.
Yeah, Wade said he nabbed the bat from a Topps baseball figure and added some thumbtacks.
Oh my god, dude.
Yeah, you could go down a rabbit hole for sure.
Yeah, Wade's got all the good stuff for me right now. Okay, let's see. Got that. All right, keep that up. Okay, so I'm just going to reduce the opacity on everything. I'm not going to do a super tight drawing. I mean, it'll be pretty tight probably from most people's standards, but I don't want to do final lines. It's more just making sure I have a really good drawing and base to kind of move on with.
Gotcha.
So this one will have, he's going to have the bandana here.
How often are you sketching traditionally in a sketchbook? Are you doing that every day, or is it hard when you have a lot of projects digitally?
Yeah, so even before I did mostly digital, I'm not a big sketchbook guy. It's funny because like every time I'd be in my sketchbook, I'd like rip it out and then go draw on it separately from the sketchbook. So it's like, I'd have like all these like separate papers everywhere. So it's hard to say. Like I really have adapted to doing almost everything exclusively digital. And I was traditionally trained, was mostly doing like master copies, charcoal, oil painting at school, and then did some shows in the Bay Area, a few solo shows, and I did stuff with acrylic paint, oils, found sculpture, laser. I would do these laser etchings. And then, because I worked at an engraver for a while, and so I do these laser etchings of these Photoshop drawings I did, because I was like, how can I make digital feel, traditional or like tactile? And so I do these Photoshop drawings, and then I would burn the drawings into birchwood, and then cut it out. It was like not quarter inch, it's like 1/8 inch birchwood, and then I'd burn it in, and then I'd cut it out, and then I'd paint all of the burned areas black, and then I would do the acrylic rendering so it had actual depth to it, and then I would cut those out in layers and then put those together on a painting on a background.
Man,
so that was really fun. And so stuff like that, like I did a lot of traditional for a long time, and I just doing freelance for so long, and just having so many clients that like understandably like they don't know exactly what they want, because a lot of them aren't visual, or maybe they've never worked for you before, and they're like, well, how do you get to that, because what you're giving me now doesn't look anything like it. And you're like, I get it. So I just kind of tried to limit as much of my time on off my final palette, because I'm like, I might as well just do it here. If I can just sketch it on here, then I'm ready to go. I don't have to stop. I don't have to scan anything. I'm taking photos. It's going to be exactly what I want. And so I just got really good at having this be my sketchbook. And I draw more than I did, surprisingly. I think getting when I got the iPad, that changed a lot. That kind of became my sketchbook.
Are you using Procreate typically when you're sketching on there, or kind of a mix of Photoshop and?
Yeah, like I've Procreate. I use a lot. Clip Studio. I've used Fresco a little bit, like experimented with that.
Cool.
Yeah, the Photoshop, I don't like using it as much on my iPad. Sorry, Adobe. I think Procreate's better on the iPad as far as that, but on the computer, I almost exclusively use Photoshop. That's cool. Kind of, I've been using it for so long. I feel like sometimes it feels bloated, but like if you've been using it, you know the tools that you want, you know that like it's all there for you. Like, you know, I don't have to go anywhere else. I don't have to, you know. So
well, and for you, I mean, productivity too. I mean, it seems like the amount of work and clients that you have, being able to just, you know, pick your tablet up or pick the iPad up and just go and start. And I think a lot of clients, I'm sure, that you've interacted with, you have such a diverse background in all these different mediums and different forms, and that's where all of your design stems from, and your animation and illustration. So I feel like being able to just start, you know, and be productive digitally, plus you can share it a lot quicker than you can on a sketchbook.
Yeah, completely. I mean, look what we're doing right now, right?
This
is it's pretty awesome that I can just sit here and do this, and it all feels pretty fluid, and that was a big reason why I switched to because before I was on a Intuos, and I was doing everything basically, you know, it's like it's 1-to-1, but you're looking at the screen while you're drawing,
right,
which was cool, and I know a lot of people do it, but it just, at a certain point for me, I really just missed feeling like I was drawing on paper, and I was starting to kind of get not depressed, but it's like, this feels really digital to me, and I'm kind of tired of it, and I need something else. And so when I was finally able to afford a Cintiq, I was just like, this is cool. This feels like I'm drawing again. And now, you know, you've got so many brushes now and options. I think that really changed everything as far as getting a similar feel. You know, it's like, it feels like I'm drawing with a pencil. And while the screen is not necessarily paper, I think the Cintiqs do a pretty good job with the matte finish on them, that it doesn't feel like glass, like how the iPad can if you don't have
like a matte
type
cover
of film
on it,
like I have a paper like matte cover that I put on mine, just to help with friction. But
my wife has been doing that too. She's a Photoshop artist, much different, more like compositing, less character design, but she's been traditionally from an artistic background and sketching and illustrating. And so when she got her iPad, it was very similar to what you're saying, like with that matte film screen. I'll watch her sketch on there and I'm like, oh, it looks like you're drawing on paper, and it feels that way. And so you're getting the same sort of just, you feel like you're actually sketching, which I think is why she uses it a lot more, and why a lot more people are flocking to tablets and pens. Yeah,
it's just the technology's there now at this point, like it. And again, I think a lot of people kind of expect it, you know, or expect the digital work. Before, I felt like for a long time, it's like digital just wasn't the same. But I think now, I remember seeing, it's like, oh, he's a digital artist. You know, like, that's digital painting. Like, well, can you do it off the computer, bro? Like, you know, and
right.
And now it's just, it's like, oh, it doesn't matter. It's whatever the end product you want to be, or, you know. But I remember for a long time growing up, it didn't have the same weight as traditional art did for me. Obviously I can feel completely different about it now, but I do still feel that especially for drawing, your draftsmanship, it's like, do it, learn traditional, go do it on a piece of paper, go paint, like because you can tell right away if somebody's a self-taught digital artist. Like not saying that it's bad, but you can tell, like, it's just the fundamentals aren't there. Like, they're really good at rendering, they really know how to paint or color, but like, you know, one of their bodies or that arm is wonky. It's like, that arm has been rendered for 50 hours and it looks great, but like something's off.
There's something wrong.
Yeah, you know, he had polio as a kid or something. Like, something's not. So I definitely like would encourage everybody, like, just go take an art class, like go figure drawing at like a bar or your local studio or where, like, just get out and make art past your computer, because it helps so much.
Yeah, that's huge advice, and I think that was definitely something I was getting at with asking, you know, your thoughts on digital versus more traditional, like pen and paper, pencil and paper. And clearly you've been doing this for a very long time and you have those fundamentals, and that's why you're able to do what you do and teach it and work with different clients. And I think you're totally right. Like, if somebody sees your work and is inspired by what you do, while they might be able to just pick up a tablet and start digitally, having those fundamentals of an artist and understand figure and movement and scale and all the things that, you know, are the basic fundamentals of art are certainly applied here, whether we make him miniature or not.
Yeah. Whether or not he's ready to like wreck this dollhouse.
Right.
It's like, I'm here.
Let's see.
He had some teeth.
So are you when you're sketching and you're working on projects like this, are you a music guy in the background? Do you like to zone out, or you like to be zen and silence and do your own thing?
It's funny, like when I am in silence, or if I do it just kind of, I don't even realize it's happened, and I'll just be like, oh wow, I've just been working quietly. I am like super ADHD though, and like I sometimes will have like multiple screens doing things because it's like just like background noise for my brain so that I don't lose concentration of what I'm doing. It's really weird. It's like I need something playing to keep me here.
Right.
So I don't start thinking about too much that's going to distract me. So I definitely like I'm definitely like a movie TV guy. You know, can't tell you how many times I've watched, you know, like Lord of the Rings or something, like Spirited Away, or just like I have these films that I'm like, okay, I'm just going to throw that on. I know all of the parts. I don't have to like watch it at all. I can just kind of listen to it, or so I'll do that. Podcasts, there's a lot of podcasts I listen to, from, you know, Zach Lowe basketball stuff that I've been getting heavy into, which is kind of, my wife's like, I didn't know this about you, and I was like, I didn't know this about me either. But then also some cool art ones.
Cool.
The negative space, which is a really cool one. They just finished doing their first season.
Sweet.
And it's this guy, Nicholas Cole, who I was showing you the Crash Bandicoot artwork. This guy, James Castillo, who's another character designer, concept artist. He just finished a movie game, interactive movie for the Oculus, the Quest 2.
Okay.
Called Madrid Noir, which is really cool. And then this other guy, Max Ulichny, who's a really awesome illustrator, but was big into VFX for a long time. But yeah, they do this really great podcast where they bring in a lot of industry experts and people and just kind of get to know them more. And just, it's always like these experiences, but it's done in a way that is fun and kind of low key and and a lot of good insider information about the industry and their experience specifically within entertainment and animation. So
that's cool. I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, that's a good one. And then
big podcast guy myself.
Yeah, there's another one it's literally called, I think, the Animation Industry Podcast, AIP.
Okay.
that's also a really great one for people who are curious about the animation industry. I just started listening to that one a little more recently, and just a lot of like, I mean, this guy interviews everybody, and it's from becoming a writer, a producer, working on like pitch Bibles, trying to, be a background painter, or, people's, how did you get in, or where did you start, or why did you change jobs after 20 years, or like, what's your favorite color? Like, how many pets do you, it's like the whole thing of like the animation industry and, how they got to where they got. That's a really cool one too. So
I'm curious, while we're on that topic, do you feel that you had a break or like some sort of big break in your career that helped you get, or land maybe your first true paid illustration job?
Gosh, it's so funny. I think where's this silly skeleton that I had? Is this it? There it is. I think it was maybe when I was just coming out of high school. I think the book was finished when I was 19, but a friend of mine that I went to high school with, his mom was working on a children's book called like Jimmy's Birthday or something. Like, I can't remember. It's been a long time. Something very simple, very cute. And she had heard that I was an artist, and so I ended up doing this book with her, and that was my first big, and that was all done in Corel paint. I'm pretty sure I used the pen tool in that for a lot of the, I look at it now, I was like, I created the most painful illustration experience for myself for that book. I had zero idea what I was doing. But yeah, I think that was my first big like paid project where, it lasted over the course of like 6 months. And so that was kind of like my first taste. As far as like really getting in, where I felt like it was a big deal, I think was with doing stuff with Skrillex. And this was back in like 2011, 2012 when I started. And so I was living in San Francisco at the time, and let's see. And I was living in a raw warehouse space. Let's just take a look at our guy, like cool little line work. Yeah. And sweet. So it's actually it was Journey's old recording studio.
No way.
Yeah, it's about 11,000 square feet. It stretched the width of 2 blocks, or 1 block. So it's like, 3rd Street was on one side. I can't remember what the backside street was, but it was right in the dog patch. It got knocked down. It was right next to where they built the Chase Center in San Francisco. Okay. So, and this guy, Casey Gray, one of my best friends, I worked at a gallery at the time, White Walls in shooting gallery in San Francisco. And he was one of the artists that we were showing. And so we met and became good friends. And I was out of my lease, or I can't remember exactly what, but he was basically like, oh, just come live at the warehouse. So I lived in like the second story of like, there's like residents on both sides, and then there's just like literally like a gym sized, like it's just concrete, and then there's like a upper deck, and no walls, nothing, just big A-frame vaulted. And so I literally just put a bed in there, put up 3 plywood walls, and like that's where I lived for like 4 months.
That is crazy. That's awesome.
I had a trash bag over my head when I slept, because when it rained it would leak, the roof would leak, so I'd like have to channel the water like down.
Oh my god.
Yeah, that's when my wife met me too. So I don't know why she thought that was a great way to. It's like, I'm gonna stay with you.
Yeah, she's like,
Um,
you show promise. You're very
yeah,
crafty here.
yeah, and so that was the place where like it's so funny. It's like, oh, this is where you had your big break. It's like you're almost homeless. And so the other guys that lived there were music producers, really cool dudes, and they were this band called the M Machine. I don't think I want this line. And so they had their whole recording studio upstairs, so people would come over from all over when they were in town or touring, and would record or play or hang out and party. And so that's when I met Skrillex, because he would come over when he'd play in San Francisco. And this is before he had put out the Scary Monsters or whatever.
Yeah.
The album that kind of changed the trajectory. And so he would just come hang out, and I was just like, I'd always be like, wait, what's his name? Skrillex? Sounds like, I don't know. Like, okay, all right. And he'd just come hang out and be like, okay, this is cool, And eventually when that thing came out, and the guys at the M Machine, they had got picked up by Ausla and were going ahead and making an album or an EP at the time that they were going to release. And they're like, do you want to do the cover for us? And so I was like, yeah, like I never, I was kind of deep into the fine art thing. And so doing commercial illustration work wasn't like, not necessarily like it wasn't on my radar, but it's just, I was doing fairs and it was all about like the shows and magazines and stuff, like Juxtapose at the time, and kind of it's something I hadn't thought of. And so since then, after that I did the M Machine. I did all of their albums. Ended up doing like a music video with them where I designed all the characters, and an animation studio called Augenblick Studios, which is they did Super Jail. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
I haven't heard of that.
It is on Adult Swim.
Okay.
I thought. And Ugly Americans was another one they did, and some other. But so that was really cool, and that kind of started that, where I was like, okay, cool, I can do this poster art, and there's other stuff like I can. And so from there, I like would start doing backgrounds for this guy Haywire and Kill Paris, and I started doing live visuals for them. I wasn't doing the animation, but I was creating the assets for it. So that was really cool. Like for that Full Flex Express, they blew up that artwork on like 30-foot banners on either side of the thing as they travel, and have it on the big screen. And then
sick.
I did a thing they did like a With Friends tour with like Nas and some other people, and like they took the typography, the typeface I created for it, like was like cut out, like put on like the huge stage, and like back. So things like that like I definitely did not get paid enough for to do. And kept it all over. Yeah, I did not ask for enough money at that time. I had no idea. But so that was kind of, I think that really opened my eyes to a lot of kind of like the work that I could do beyond fine art, beyond just illustration for books or whatever. But so that was pretty cool. I haven't done much of that recently. I worked for this guy Kill Paris for a couple years, and then he's kind of been moving into a new direction, but that was really fun. We did a lot of work. So if you guys ever want to check out any of that stuff.
I saw, I was looking at some of that before we hopped on the stream, and I mean, it's awesome. And I think like a huge piece of just saying yes to certain projects like you did, where you weren't really sure if this was necessarily the direction you wanted to take your career, but it was early days. And, you say yes to a couple projects and to one big break or any sort of break based on, how you work with somebody. And clearly that led to a lot more work in the music industry. And it still is like a portfolio builder for you, and one of the things that caught my eye. So it's always so cool to hear people's story. And fascinated by how like there is no straight line as an artist, and especially for what you do, it starts here, maybe it goes off trajectory somewhere else and loops itself back. Like you really don't know.
No, and that's why it's always interesting to be like, well, what did you do? And it's like, there's no answer. There's no right answer.
Yeah.
Everybody's story is different. Like you just have to do you. Make sure. And I think the biggest thing, which I've been ready and I haven't been ready, you know, I've blown my chances with things, but you have to be ready for opportunity, because it will come if you keep doing what you want to do and you practice and you're like I said, you're willing to fail, willing to learn, willing to be humble, willing to work hard. It's like, especially with art and drawing specifically, or something that's very skill based, if you do that every day, you're going to get really good at it. I mean, I watch people that, you know, I remember my first figure drawings at art school, and, you know, at that time you're cocky and you're like, yeah, art school. And like, I'm so good.
Yeah.
And so when you're watching these people, you're like, they can't draw. What are they doing here? And then, you know, year 4, they're getting ready to graduate and they're getting a job straight out of school. You're like, damn, that's beautiful. Like they're killing it. Like this is holy, you know, you did it. You proved me wrong. Like you are a total badass now. And it's just because they chose to work their ass off and you know. So
opportunity doesn't happen without hard work too. Like you have to, like you said, you have to be willing to put the work in and practice. And I think I've recently been trying to just continue to adapt the mindset that, you know, when I asked you about if you're listening to music or what you do when you're sketching, like it seems like you're still furthering your education every time you're sketching, whether it's a podcast or a movie, even if it's just entertainment, it inspires you in some way. And so I think there's ample avenues and ways to continue to educate and learn and sort of leave the ego at the door and just work towards what you want. And you're right, like that opportunity will continue to find you when you do that.
Yeah. And I think illustration for me, like really, when I really pushed in that direction, I feel like it's like you can't not be humbled, because there's just so many really good illustrators out there and artists, especially in the entertainment industry. Not only are they making art 10 times better than yours, they're doing it 10 times faster. And when it comes to like the concept art and the character art and stuff, it's like, and then the way their brains work and how they put things together and how they tell story and like so you really, it's kind of hitting you from all angles, and you're just like, ugh. Like I want to be able to do that. Like I want to be able to make something that like people remember, or like someone sees that it's in their brain, or like, oh, I've never seen that before. That's a character I've never seen before.
Right.
You know, because I know what kind of impact it had on me as a kid. It's like,
well, it's important too to take that idea, like where you're inspired by other people and you see the breadth of how many other artists and illustrators are doing it, and not steer away from being intimidated by it, but use it as inspiration and, you know, the driving force to work harder and continue to create work that you feel better about too. You know, often artists, we play the comparison game where we end up scaring ourselves out of opportunities because somebody else has done it already.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's even, you know, before like a stream like this, it's like, I'll still get really nervous and be like, I know I can do this, but you know, it's, you want to make sure that like you're making an impact too, especially you're on a big platform, or people get to see your art, and you just want to make sure that what you're putting out there is meaningful and heartfelt and genuine. And so, this stuff, and I love this kind of stuff. There's something about just drawing fun characters that it's really pure. It's not really a wrong way to do it. So
it's coming out so cool. It looks awesome.
So let's see. This is kind of getting a better drawing here, because eventually by tomorrow we'll be moving into colors. I'll probably have that all done, and then moving much further into rendering. and kind of really making this dynamic pose a lot better with, you know, good lighting. And I'll probably have several different color schemes too for us to look at, because when I go to rendering, I'll be doing probably a lot of the rendering itself on separate layers, so the colors themselves we can kind of manipulate and change and look at. There's maybe better options.
And you're doing all that, so you're rendering everything, lighting and everything in Photoshop, just on separate layers, so that you have everything, you know, easily accessible, and you can go back to these original pieces of art, right?
Yeah. So yeah, everything usually is on a separate layer, especially for if I want to change anything, or maybe the lighting changes, something where you can get multiple pieces from just one session, be like, okay, this is my guy.
Yeah.
You know, this is my drawing that I've got. And then, you know, the base colors are all going to be on a separate layer. My shadows for that, they might even be clipping masks too, that I might break down each, you know, the head's going to be on one layer. The clothes are going to be on one layer. The hands might be on a separate layer. Just, it just depends on how much I want to break it down. You don't have to, but it does make it easier. It can make it more difficult also if you get too crazy with it.
Yeah.
A little too complex, but it doesn't really need to be that way. Okay. So I think that's pretty cool. As far as our guy, let's see, he's got a shirt on.
I love that jacket, or that, like, it's so like perfectly boxy, but it just, the whole thing just looks so cool already.
Thank you. Yeah, we're hoping we can use this now, and we can, what I'm going to do is duplicate them, bring another version over here. And so now we can kind of start to think about what we can add or take away that's going to either make them different or just try some stuff out. Probably, you know, things like things that I can put, you know, on his crest, or piercings or scars, patches, stuff like that. So I think that's what we're going to kind of do right now.
To those that are just joining us here, we're about an hour into the stream, got about an hour left here, and keep those questions coming. We're a little quiet here in the chat right now, but any questions you have for Chris, please share them and ask away. He's a wealth of knowledge, and I'm thrilled to be hosting them and learning something new today for me. Definitely something new.
Let's see.
That's cool.
Give him his little goatee spikes.
Nice, naturally.
Yeah. And we'll probably want to like replicate those. You know, with design, it's like you always want to kind of replicate shapes that you've used before. Kind of adds harmony to your design. And usually in nature too, you're going to have, those things are also going to be repeated.
Right.
Patterns and rhythm. So. And
there's probably a fine line too between like patterns and being totally symmetrical in certain things too, especially with what you're doing there, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's right. I feel like it takes time to kind of learn like how to make something. Yeah, it's like you don't want to make it too perfect, and it's like when you're placing stuff, you don't want these like pattern, like it's like, okay, that doesn't really work, or it might be too tight, or it might be too stringent, or too stiff. So it's like laying in, it's like, how do you lay in scales that kind of feel
That's cool too.
It's like random, but not, like how do
Right.
how do you work on stuff like that? How do you, and that takes a lot of time, just kind of in practice of learning how to do that. And that also just with your designs, think like how your designs are weighted or where you need extra shapes or how to push it. Let's see.
Daryl has a question about whether you've changed the way you work over the years. I think that's a good question. Like, did you have a eureka moment in your workflow, or have you changed certain methods, I guess, you've used over the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I first started with Photoshop, I didn't know a lot of the tools. I didn't know a lot of shortcuts. I used to use almost purely, what's it? The round brush,
Okay.
like hard round. I used it for everything. I think I was just scared to kind of like get further in and just be overwhelmed by how many brushes there are and everything. And then, but two, as I was working on stuff, I think it also came from the posters, working on those is, I wanted it to feel like a screen print. And so everything I did, I built in really flat layers as I worked, because I didn't want the digital to shine through. I wanted it to really feel like, oh, you could see, if you saw it on a screen, and it could feel like, oh, okay, that could be totally like a screen print or something.
Right.
And a lot of the times too, that stuff was being screen printed or putting out, the output was traditional. But I think traditionally I wasn't like that. And so I started to figure out like, how can I get better in those skills, but digitally, and started kind of really applying myself and figuring out how I could become a better digital painter without losing my style or voice, but at the same time, pushing myself to really learn how to render well and understanding the importance of different brushes and when they're needed, if they're needed. So discovering clipping masks was another huge thing for me.
Okay.
That took a while for some reason. Like I was just like, yeah, I know what those are, but like it seems confusing. I was still like caveman, like layer, that's, and then I think I had taken I don't know if you've ever heard of the Domestika.
Yeah.
So I think it's Joel Santana, I think is his name. He had a painting course for character design. And he was showing his method, and he was working a lot with clipping masks. And I think once I just saw him working, I was like, oh, that's actually really easy and a great way to work without kind of losing your base design or colors. Before I would lock my layers, I would almost like create a duplicate and then lock it and then paint on that. Like I was basically doing the same thing, but making it really complicated.
Right.
So yeah, I think clipping masks really helped. That changed a lot as far as my process.
It's funny it's funny how we end up like being afraid to take the next step, because either it's a tool that we either haven't used or we're just not used to using it. So you almost get comfortable with, okay, like this is my method, this is my process, and it works for me, so I don't need to continue to develop. And once which you've clearly done, like once you get over that idea and learn the tools that are there to make your life easier as an artist, it opens up this whole world for you.
Oh, and completely. And then you kind of feel like a dummy for not. It's like, what was like, could have been past this already a long time ago. If I would have just like get out of my head and just do this.
I love that little detail there on the knee. That's cool.
Yeah, and I'm trying to remember the gosh, it was funny. I was on one of the streams that what's the key? It's the little swoosh. It's called it's right below the escape.
Oh, it's like a tilde or something, or
thank you, the tilde. Yes. So discovering that could be an eraser but using your brush texture, I was like, what?
Wow.
Like that was stuff like that where it's like I probably should have known that a long time ago and didn't. Let's see. Maybe we have him is kind of tucked in here, maybe.
So that's like kind of a rip in his jeans.
So he's got a rip there, and then maybe these are more like kind of tucked in a little bit.
And that goes back to what you were saying up top with the, using those consistent shapes. It looks like in that kneecap there, you're still using that consistent, like sharp, triangular shape that you have consistently throughout his whole body too.
Yeah, and I think with this guy, it's a lot of, kind of round, it's a lot of hard edges, but a lot of big round curves. It's kind of that contrast. I like to use it in drawings. It gives it a little more edge, but you kind of still can use those big shapes, especially that they use in animation. And it's funny with animation now, because before there was just I think there's a lot more rules. I mean, they still apply today, but with 2D, it's like you have to draw that over and over and over and over and over again. So the way you're going to design that character is, what's the fastest way to draw that character? You've got to make sure all your shapes work together. You kind of want to limit the amount of detail unless it's super important, and I think with 3D animation changed a lot of that, because you could really get in there, and a lot of that stuff, some of the accessories or other things that maybe would be really hard to animate in 2D, it's like, they only got physics systems that are handling those, or you can kind of go ham and just do as much as you want, and it's a lot easier to kind of just maybe take away the fat in post-production, or it's like it's such a different game now, and the way you can design characters is a lot different, especially for video games as well.
Very, very, very true.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back and look at a lot of the Disney stuff, really, really simple, really clean, and then you look at some of the stuff now, and you're just like, whoa.
It's a completely different world. What did I watch? I watched something recently that was one of the last, like that last Disney era 2D movie. I think it was The Princess and the Frog, or one of those movies that
that was one of them.
Had that early style, which is amazing to watch and see the difference with how far technology and 3D have come. But you certainly pick up on a lot of the different additions to what you can do with 3D that you couldn't really do in 2D.
Oh yeah, and they've combined a lot of it too, with the 2D and the 3D, and kind of the way that they can color. Like Klaus was a great example. Let's see if I'll make another one of these guys. Klaus had, they came up with this amazing way of rendering that was never used before, and it looks 3D. I mean, you look at it and you're just like, this is incredible. I can't believe this is 2D animation. But they came up with an algorithm that they had designed that uses like 3D meshes, but it's over 2D drawings, and like it's really unbelievable.
Wow.
Because a lot of that, with a lot of that stuff, also, integrating 3D environments, because before in 2D you could only get there's a lot of static scenes or pans. You couldn't really like do these fly throughs or things that they can do now, because it's like that would be insane to draw.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What else we want to do with this guy? Maybe he has another one, another spike pattern here or something.
Is the C on his pocket for the captain of whatever sports baseball bruiser team he's on, or is that the C for
Chameleon? That was just like a button.
It almost looks like a C, like he's the captain.
Yeah, it could be the captain. I know. I'm trying to think, like we could put some buttons on him,
or like a pack of cigarettes or something in his
rolled
jacket.
up in his. Oh yeah. Let's see. Could put one in there. Can always do that.
The emergency smoke in case things go awry.
Yes, of course. You can have one.
We're allowing you.
Thank you.
And again, I mean, that's like a small little detail, but again, going back to how you started the stream, really going over the theme of, anthropomorphic and giving a cigarette to a chameleon. It's not something that is okay, but somehow when you humanize them, all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, he fits the bill.
Yeah, this guy works.
This guy fits the bill.
Sometimes when you're just basking in the sun, that cigarette just hits the spot.
I just know he lives in Vegas. That's like on the strip, off the strip somewhere in a little hole.
Yeah, he's definitely off the strip. That guy's
he's way off. He's at some saloon door, like in the middle of like Henderson or something.
Let's see. What else could we? Yeah, maybe instead of it, maybe he's been like had some battle action with a larger animal or something.
Now, in a case like this, as the third iteration or something, that's really cool. And let's say you wanted to remove the bandana and do something else with, like, maybe he had a tattoo here, he had a chain or something like that. Would that be easy enough to do because you've already done that initial, like you've already outlined the skeleton essentially? So those are
I could just take that skeleton. Let me just move him over here. So yeah, let's do that. Oops. Let's just take this off.
What do we think this creature's name is? Anyone in the chat have some suggestions? Not that we're tied to a name, but now that we're starting to really build this character out, what are we thinking? Anyone in the chat? I've been kind of thinking that too.
It's a good question.
Maybe he doesn't even have a name, but
he's got
to have a name. He's got to be.
You don't know his real name. It's whatever name he's been given in the in the initiation. Yeah. What are they? I forgot what it's called. The hazing.
Yeah, his hazing gang initiation.
Yeah.
Daryl says, "How about a neck chain with a cat's claw or tooth?"
Okay, I like that.
Merv. His name is Merv. All right. Merv sounds a little less hard with his cigarettes in his pocket, but he could have been some Poindexter turned bad.
There we go, Merv.
Hey, Merv.
Hey, Merv. Hey, guys.
Hi. Where's the brawl? Here. Where's the initiation? Am I in the right place?
I found this cat's tooth. Thought it'd be a cool necklace.
Man, there's some serious names going on in this chat right now. What do we got? We got Sprinkles. I don't know about Sprinkles, but I like where your head's at, Wade. Twitchy. Griller.
Okay.
And we got Galorpa Bacht. Oh man, I don't even know how you would say that.
Galorpa Bocht.
Orpabocht.
Let's see. Let's get this.
I think he should have some chest hair.
Yes.
Just
of course.
a couple little hairs. Ooh, Carl. He could be named Carl.
This could be a Carl.
Could be a Carl. It's funny once you start to throw an identity of a name on there and it changes who he is completely.
Oh yeah, you're just like, oh, yeah. I guess he is a Carl.
Yeah.
Maybe a Merv.
He could be a Merv. Could be a Ron.
Yeah.
We don't know. We don't know that he's
Merv
not a Ron.
was an insurance broker, and then he got into meth, and now he.
Yeah, Merv the meth head in Henderson, Vegas, after being an accountant for his whole life.
Here, maybe we can. Maybe he doesn't have a shirt on underneath. Let's see. I'm trying to decide whether to give him like actual.
Oh, the belly button's so good. That's just. It's so funny because just that tiny little detail, all of a sudden, you almost see he almost has like this little beer belly.
Yeah. I'm like, should I give him some scales, or I don't know, maybe not.
So funny.
Give him some scales up here.
Bliss says that he's a military enthusiast and is up to date on all government conspiracy theories.
Oh yeah,
100%.
He is definitely a QAnon follower.
He's changing.
Do your research. Do your research.
Where do you get your research from?
The internet. Okay, let's see. We wanted to do a cat's tooth, right?
Yeah, let's throw a little cat's tooth in there, which would be quite tiny. From my knowledge of cat teeth.
I think we need this bit. Okay.
I like the name Rubble. Daryl says the name could be Rubble. I'm digging that one. Rubble.
All I can think, because I've got a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, so all I think about is Paw Patrol.
Oh my god.
The like bulldog construction workers. The name's Rubble.
Yeah. That's great. Keep them coming, everyone in the chat. This is the most active. Clearly, we've struck a chord.
That's all you have to do is ask for names.
Ask for a name. Oh, I got it.
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that the whole time.
I didn't care till now.
I was asleep 3 minutes ago.
Okay, how are we gonna do this? Maybe it's a cat claw.
And while you're working on this, while we're all active and awake here in the stream, while I have everyone's attention, don't forget to submit your recommendations for Artist Spotlight. We will be doing one tomorrow on day 2. So if you know of an artist you want to recommend, please do. It's an awesome way for other artists to share fellow artists' work and spotlight them here on this stream. So if you have those people that you're inspired by and just someone you want to shout out, please make sure to submit that.
Love those artist spotlights, man.
Yeah, they are awesome.
They're super fun. Let's see.
Oh, wait, that cat's tooth.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how we can really make this cool.
It's like a tusk.
I just quickly looked up how when they're not inside of a paw. Kind of cool.
I love how he has all these accessories now on him. Like for someone who's a hobo, he's really got a bunch going on.
Yeah, you got to carry it all on yourself, right?
You got to carry it all. You got to have the smokes. You got to have the tooth. It's hot out there in the desert. Got to expose that belly button.
Yep, that's right.
Let's see. What story do we have? He's never been on a safari, but got that big cat's tooth from City Pawn on a trip to the city to pick up supplies for the military surplus shop.
It's getting detailed, folks.
We are getting deep. We are getting deep on Rubble.
All right.
I remember in film school, I always found it really interesting when you start to develop a character, you develop a story, like how in the rabbit hole you can really go. And it was always a fun exercise if I was stuck creatively on a script or on a story to just think of a character in the most insane way, and then do almost what we're doing here and just go down that path. And
down that path. Be like, how weird can we get?
How crazy can we get here?
Okay. All right.
Pretty cool to see that progression though, from the first sketch, to now all those little details you've added and really just create even more dynamic of a character.
Right. So you can kind of, and you can, and as you look at them, you can kind of be like, okay, what's working, what's not working, what needs to change. But yeah, I mean, because you can really start digging in on the details, right? Like there's so much fun stuff you could add to him.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. So you could change. Let's change his shoes on this one.
Philip says they want the tail to be proportionately bigger, I guess, to their body. Bigger tail. That's what we're
bigger
hearing.
Tail.
And again, just suggestions being thrown to the professional here.
Let's see what we can do.
His face could have a scar from the cat. That's what Daryl's thinking. So we're really doubling down on this cat claw. He got in a scuffle with a cat and stole the tooth. Took it as a prize.
Maybe that's what started him down his downward spiral.
Yeah.
He had a great life, and then this cat took it from him.
This cat, he's wearing it as a relic to remind him of
the
struggles.
Yeah, exactly. That was the cat. That's the cat attack right there.
Yep.
He took his claws. He declawed him. So yeah, I'll do this other shoe, and then let's mess with that tail and see what that can look like. Change that shoe too.
So you're changing sort of the shape of the shoe, like creating it a little more.
Yeah, I think this a little bit bigger. I think this one, changing the angle a little bit. Let's see.
Daryl says this is like having 80 art directors over the shoulder of an artist.
Yeah, love that. Yeah.
Isn't that
There's
the best?
nothing better than being micromanaged.
Oh my goodness. It tests your patience and then some, that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, this is fun. That's why I like doing it live, because
yeah,
I feel like I always like the first day, because you can I like doing all this, getting all of the opinions and having fun and changing stuff up. And then between now and tomorrow, I kind of can make the decisions of like, okay, what really looks cool? What's really working?
Right.
Where do I need to cut the fat? But yeah, it's that's the whole point of it being live as well, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that's the format of these is so great. I mean, to be interactive, and I think it also just keeps everyone else in the chat creatively inspired to go out, and if illustration is something that you're interested in, which that's why you're all here on this stream, and being able to be interactive is the coolest thing about these formats,
I feel like this legs.
Let's see what else we have. The tail should have piercings on it. What does Bliss say? If you stay red, you ain't got to get ready. Oh man. Getting a little ridiculous here at this 2 o'clock hour, 2 o'clock Eastern time for me.
Where are you in the East?
I am in like Pennsylvania, New Jersey border area. So.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's I grew up on the East Coast, and I actually lived in Los Angeles for 6 years. So my wife and I lived out there, and it's kind of where we started our career. And then we a couple years ago we moved into a van, so we traveled in a van for 2 years, and we just bought a house last May. So
that's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you. yeah, so get an opportunity to host a lot more of these from a consistent environment instead of some random KOA.
Yeah. How long were you guys traveling like that for? I mean,
we intended on doing it a lot longer, and then the pandemic happened, and so that was a little bit of a damper for obviously a lot of people. So we traveled on and off, I'd say like 2.5 years. We still have the van, so in the summer and the spring we tend to take longer road trips. But we had a lot of international jobs lined up that the pandemic completely
yeah,
took away from us, as a lot of people felt.
Yeah, I mean, but I think having that experience, it's probably been pretty darn awesome, especially with a loved one, a partner.
You do have to have a very special bond to live in a box that small, and we certainly do. And to all those on Valentine's Day that share a similar bond, rent a van. We actually got into the van life on our honeymoon, so we rented a van and traveled across the country for 2 weeks. So that was our first like soiree into it, and we both kind of fell in love with the whole life. It was really cool.
That's awesome. I don't know if I could do it. I'm a bit of a homebody.
Yeah, it's hard.
I like having a home base. But it's pretty cool. I mean, the amount of experiences you can get in a short amount of time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I mean, now that we have a house, I think I'm falling a little more into the homebody. I do like having my space, but I definitely need to continue to scratch that itch and get back on the road once the weather starts getting nicer. At least for us, weather's nice by you guys most of the time.
Yeah, it's I think it's gonna be like 85 today.
Oh, I know you've been having a heat wave over there,
dude. It's like, it's
crazy.
Been like 90 and like clear and sunny, like good air. I was like, what is this?
Yeah. It snowed here last night for the Super Bowl, so that's what we were dealing with.
Oh boy. Okay, let's see. All right.
I like that tail. It's totally different, but very cool.
Yeah, no, tail's got some nice balance to it.
The tail has almost a life of its own now.
I mean, I guess, it'd be pretty cool if he could hang on to things with his tail.
Yeah. Wade had a good question. As we were talking about, micromanaging, but how do you handle clients that tend to micromanage or, have in the past? How do you handle those kind of clients?
I mean, I think you just kind of, you have to be confident in knowing why you're doing what you're doing. I think one of the worst things you could do is not have a good reason for making the choices that you're making. Because then when they start questioning things or saying like, well, why don't you do this? If you go like, oh, well, yeah, I guess I could, or you're kind of giving away some of that experience and knowledge that you have, or know, it's like they hired you for a reason. And so be confident that they hired you because you're a great artist, or you made something or did something that obviously caught their eye. So I think you could find ways of like, maybe when you're talking to them at that moment, you're like, okay, yeah, I'll try that. I'll do this. Either try and do that or know in the back of your head that like, I'm not going to do any of those things. Put together, reason why, put together some kind of visual of why maybe that won't work or it does work. So I think it's like you just have to make sure that you're backing up what you're doing, you know. And if they want to try to micromanage or whatever, it's like always obviously communicate, don't be a dick. Like it's really easy to get frustrated, especially with clients that ask a lot of you and maybe aren't paying you as much as you want, or feel like they're making changes that you don't feel like need to be made. It's like, just be patient, be confident, and make sure you backing up what you're saying. Because if you can show them, or if you can explain to them why something might work, it goes a long way. And I think most clients will be like, oh, okay. Or like, try, it's like, you can kind of be like, well, I could try that, but this might happen.
Right.
Or,
Yeah.
another good one is that's not in the contract. And if you want to
Yep.
do that, you're going to have to pay me more. That's
Yep.
another thing that usually stops people pretty quickly from like,
And it's always,
well, okay, don't.
Yeah. It's always an awkward conversation to have, but it is extremely important to do those kind of things, especially starting out, for client work. And you get better at it over time, telling a client, hey, this is how it is. But yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the biggest key there is the confidence to the client hires you for a reason, and they're hiring you for what you're good at. And so have the confidence to know that they will listen to you if you make a good point and a good case. And I think so much of it, at least from my experience, is managing expectations too, like from the very beginning, managing timelines and managing iterations of rounds of revisions and, how many you're intending to include in that contract, and things like that just go a long way to, one, not make you resent the client you're working for, and also the client appreciate, the work you're doing too.
Yeah, I think that's a great point.
Yeah, good question.
Because, I think it's up to you to make the process easier. It's like they're paying you. A lot of these people I don't think a lot of clients usually don't know also like what goes into it, or really understands the amount of work that something might take, or research, or it's not always easy to see, especially if that's not something that they're experienced in. So I just think the better you communicate, and like you said, what are the expectations, and what can you provide within a certain budget, and just being upfront early on of like, this is what you can ask for, this is what you can do, this is where we can there's a little gray area we can work with. But I think a big lesson for me is like, it's not a bad client, it's like you made a bad contract.
Right. Yeah.
Or it's your decision. You're the one saying yes to this. You're the one that's deciding how much money you're ultimately going to get paid. Whether or not they're a factor in that, it's like, it's kind of up to you to make that job something that's worth doing or enjoyable.
Absolutely.
And obviously, that being said, there's just plenty of pitfalls that
there's none that are going to be perfect, and I think that's part of the failure success that you were talking about earlier. Like, it's okay to fail, and you have to fail, and failure is not necessarily a bad thing in this situation, but you're going to work with clients that are difficult, and you'll work with clients that you'll work with in the future, and you'll work with clients that are difficult that you want to work with in the future because they pay you better than some other ones. So there's just navigating that world is part of just running a business as a freelancer and as an artist too. So it's you never want to. I remember early on, a mistake that I had made was not communicating on a project and being afraid to say, oh, this is going to cost a little more, or there might be more iterations. And then you have that resentment for your client, and you sort of blindside them, which is not what they expect when they hire someone professionally. So that communication is always key. Yeah.
Like I said, it really is just about communication, because that applies to like every relationship you have in life.
Yeah.
The better you can communicate, the better that relationship's going to be.
Right.
All right. I'm just erasing this really quick because I forgot. I kind of want to keep him simple in my back pocket, and now I can make another one.
Theo has another question just as you keep working here, and then I'll kind of wrap up. So when you're feeling uninspired and maybe stuck on a project or stuck creatively, what are some things you do to overcome it, or how do you deal with that kind of roadblock?
I usually look at other people's work, take a walk, watch something, read something, start drawing, just anything to get your brain moving. I think taking a drive, taking a walk can sometimes help, getting away from your computer or the internet or whatever that could be preventing maybe some of that from happening, is always good. but yeah, I think a big one for me is having those inspirational artists that I look up to, and just, you know, nice collection of books, art books that I have, and stuff where it's like, you just kind of want to remind yourself like what you're doing and why you're doing it. But yeah, sometimes it's really hard. I mean, can't tell you how many times sitting in front of my canvas or something and being like, this is not working. Like, I can't, you know, you just have you have bad days.
Yeah. It happens.
And those are okay too, you know, like it's just going to happen. But yeah, I mean, I think you just have to be proactive with it. If you get a creative block, you can't just sit there and be like, okay, it's either, you know, do something else for a while and try to come back. Maybe sometimes it's good if you've been working too long on something and you need like fresh eyes. Oh yeah, that's another great thing is bring in another friend, an artist, your partner, somebody to get just fresh eyes on it or fresh ideas. You know, call somebody, talk to somebody. That usually helps a lot too. So yeah, I think there's a few things you can do to kind of help with those big roadblocks. But
yeah, absolutely.
It's gonna happen.
It does. Yeah.
You're gonna get frustrated. You're gonna have bad days.
Yeah, it's part of the journey as an artist. If without those, you know, every day is not perfect. And I think sometimes with, you know, timelines or deadlines of a project, a lot of those stressors come out more apparently because you feel the pressure of maybe a deadline that's a little tight. But I think that all of those pieces of advice, Chris, are exactly the way you'd handle that situation too.
Yeah, it's just inevitable that you're going to have to just get good at navigating creative blocks, you know. And sometimes it happens at the worst times, you know, big clients, short turnaround. So it's, you know, real professionals, people that are really successful, they can overcome those obstacles quickly because they have a tool set, you know, they have their own tricks, their bag of tricks that they're like, okay, I've got, you know, 2 days to do this. I can't just sit here and twiddle my thumbs. Like, what do I need to do to generate this? I think for me too, another good way to do it is starting to collect reference for characters. So, you know, if I'm working on this, it's like, okay, I'm looking at Hell's Angels stuff, and I even read the book by Hunter S. Thompson, which is great.
I have it on the shelf right back here.
Have you finished it?
Yeah, it's awesome.
Oh my gosh, the ending of that too.
So good.
He's such a madman.
Yeah, it's insane.
You know, so start looking stuff up. You know, like, and then having, you know, I've got my some Chameleon reference. And this was the pose reference that I have down here at the bottom.
Cool.
I don't know if you can see this ridiculous.
I love that shot.
Yeah. So just have things that you can reference or that are just going to kind of, if you get stuck, it can help you keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. I love his ring. It almost looks like a hex bolt.
Yeah, the perspective's a little wonky. I'll have to fix it, but yeah, it's supposed to be like a little nut.
So Chris, I'm just giving you a heads up. We got about 7-ish minutes left before we have to wrap today. And that goes for everyone in the chat. Any other questions that you have for Chris, leave them now so we can try to squeeze them in. If not, again, we will be back tomorrow for day 2, and we will be doing an artist spotlight as well. So lots of exciting stuff to continue.
Maybe this can kind of do this more like it's facial hair.
Yeah,
like stubble, cool. But it's, you know, still kind of like spikes. But yeah, with this kind of stuff, it's endless what you can create for this guy. And so what I'll do in between now and tomorrow morning is I'm going to go ahead. I might create a few more versions or alterations, or one of these guys might just fit the bill as is. But most likely what I'll do is I'll probably take a little bit from each and create a final design. Um, I don't know. I don't know if because I did want to try to really make this for animation. So I might try to simplify some of the shapes, make it a little more accessible for production. So we'll see. We'll see kind of where I end up. But who knows? It also could be more enjoyable as like a big, fun, illustrative character that maybe I get a little more detail, a little more wild on. So gonna kind of see where I end up here.
Now, when you're prepping, like I know for pulling an Illustrator file or a Photoshop file into, After Effects, having everything on its own layer, which you obviously have here, but if you're prepping one of these characters for animation, are you doing anything differently with separating each of these layers out?
Not really. I mean, they're using a lot of this stuff at face value. I mean, it's all being JPEG flattened. It's rare that you have it in layers or anything. You're usually just delivering flat images. But if it was in-house or something, obviously you wouldn't be doing that. You'd be delivering as is. They'd be looking at it and then you would be adjusting on the fly or the next work day or whatever.
Gotcha.
But yeah, with this kind of stuff, like I said, beyond this is our hero pose. And then once we decide on that, I'm going to be doing, front facing. So you get it exactly what the proportions are from the front. And then you do a side face and then 3/4 view and then a back side. So when they build that skeleton in Maya or ZBrush or whatever they're using, they can take those images and they can project them into the 3D space and they can actually build it as a background. So you're basically just building it almost like a stencil. And so you actually have the proportions that you can use directly with just from the drawings. Some people do it that way. Some people don't, just freehand, or you have measurements that you can use. But yeah, it's kind of funny. The 3D stuff, you kind of have like the T-pose. It's kind of like the silly, in 2D, they don't really do that as much. Because they're redrawing it all the time. So they really want to see how more natural pose, where 3D, it's like you're just building this giant structured puppet that you have to manipulate.
Gotcha.
So yeah.
Man, super, super cool. I mean, just watching you work today has been interesting for me, and really hearing your story. I mean, you've been doing this a long time, and it clearly shows, because to not only be able to do what you're doing this quickly, but to do it live and to teach it, you're a master of your craft here, and it's very interesting to watch.
Thank you. I hope I'm okay at this by now. Maybe I should move on.
Yeah.
Like,
if you have to ask that question.
Yeah, I think it's time for a new career.
I mean, you made a good point earlier, though, feeling still even a little nervous to get on here and do this. I think no matter how professional we become, how good we become at our job, at our craft, like there's always that slight part of us that, at least I feel it sometimes, the imposter syndrome. Like, do I actually really know what I'm doing, or do I just think I know what I'm doing? And it's a nice reassuring feeling when you get on a stream like this and actually get to teach it and see the feedback and the response. So
yeah, you're like, okay, I think I got this. I think this is nobody's called my bluff yet, so maybe I am doing this right.
Exactly.
Yeah, maybe this is he's got the cutoff shorts.
Oh yeah. Oh, I like that. Obviously the jean shorts.
Yeah.
Rolling around in the desert will do that to a good pair of Levi's.
Yeah, eventually those jeans will have to become shorts at some point.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Let's see. Any other questions? We got 1 minute left, so
let's save it. I should probably save it. I don't think I've saved it.
Was that the first thing? Oh, sure. Good. Thank God, it's saved.
Woo!
All right. Awesome, Chris. Well, thank you. Thanks for an awesome stream, and really looking forward to seeing what you cook up for us tomorrow and get into. So appreciate appreciate your knowledge, and I'm inspired to continue to learn more about illustration. And again, thank you to everyone in the chat. As we wrap up here, again, get those nominations in if you would like to recommend a creative to highlight on our next artist spotlight. Like I said, tomorrow we will be doing an artist spotlight. And Chris and I will be back tomorrow at 9:30 a.m. Pacific time for part 2 of character design. So don't miss that. And get your loved one a Valentine's Day card. It is Valentine's Day. So happy Valentine's Day to the lovebirds out there. And we'll see you tomorrow. Take care,
guys. See you soon.